Brentford reject Manchester United's opening bid of £55 million for Brian Mbeumo. Hi, good evening. Welcome along to the Transfer Show. Clubs have got just 5 days now to get their deals over the line in this early summer window. And it looks as if Manchester United are going to be one of the most active. And there's also significant news regarding the champions Liverpool, as they reject an approach from Barcelona for Luis Diaz. Straight away, we've got breaking news for you here on the Transfer Show. Kaveh Solokol, what have you got?
Well, Chelsea have been offered the chance to sign Mohamed Kudus from West Ham United. And my information is that Chelsea have not said no at the moment, and they are considering whether to add Mohamed Kudus to their list of attacking targets. Now, during discussions, the name of Robert Sanchez was also brought up, the Chelsea goalkeeper. Now, West Ham are interested in signing Sanchez, and of course, Sanchez worked with the West Ham manager, Graham Potter, when the two of them were together at Brighton and Hove Albion.
OK, does that free up... Sorry, Kaveh, does that free up a spot then to get a goalkeeper in at Chelsea?
Well, I think if Chelsea sign a new goalkeeper, it will be before they leave for the Club World Cup next week. And of course, we know that there is interest in Mike Maignan, the AC Milan goalkeeper. They've been offered the chance to sign him. Now, he has told Milan that he wants to move to Chelsea and he will not sign a new contract at Milan. Remember, he's out of contract next summer. So he's basically telling Milan, either I move this summer, I want to go to Chelsea, or I will walk out next summer on a free transfer. Also, another possible incoming at Chelsea is Jamie Gittins from Borussia Dortmund. He remains a top Chelsea target, and Chelsea are exploring the parameters of a potential deal for him.
Now, while you were talking, I got news that you've got more breaking news, this time on Liam Delap. What's that?
Well, look, a decision has been made. Good news for Chelsea supporters. Liam Delap is definitely going to the Club World Cup with Chelsea next week. Now, originally, if he hadn't signed for Chelsea, he would be playing in the Under-21 Euros, which start next week in Slovakia. Of course, England are the defending champions. Now, this is a unique scenario for Liam Delap and also Chelsea and England, because this is a new FIFA tournament. This is the first time we've had a month-long Club World Cup in the summer. I'm being told that Liam Delap is still fully committed to England, and he's going to the Club World Cup with everyone's blessing. Brilliant.
So we've started with two bits of breaking news already. If you haven't noticed, Mark McAdam is with Kaveh. Mark, nice to see you.
I'm just here to keep him cool.
He doesn't need to be kept cool. He is cool. All right, let's talk Manchester United. Brian Mbeumo, we've been talking about him. What's the latest?
Yeah, it's going to be a huge summer, isn't it, for Manchester United? We know there's a lot of attention and pressure under Ruben Amorim as he looks to reshape this Manchester United squad under his DNA. And this man is without question going to be a big part of it. But Manchester United have got to get to the price that Brentford want. We know that their first offer has been rejected. That was £45 million plus £10 million in add-ons. Our information is that Brentford are looking for £60 million upward. This is a man that's almost guaranteed goals for Brentford. He's their top Premier League goal scorer, which is some achievement in itself, more than Ivan Toney, because everyone thinks about Brentford and goals and they think of Ivan Toney. This man has been a consistent presence throughout the last 5-6 years since he joined in 2019. He's formed really good partnerships. He cost Brentford just £4 million from Troyes. He was scouted, watched, looked at by Lee Dykes and Phil Giles, who have done an incredible job, and now they're looking to sell him for £60+ million. So first offer rejected. However, we know that Manchester United are super keen on Brian Mbeumo, so it's expected there will be a second offer at some stage soon. OK, so they want him. Are forwards the priority for United, Kaveh?
I think they are. Scoring goals was a major problem for United last season. They're moving quickly to address that glaring weakness. We've already seen them complete a deal for Matheus Cunha. I think Brian Mbeumo has basically let everyone know that he wants to move to Manchester United as well. So I think there's a good chance that this deal will be done pretty quickly. Also, there's a possibility that United may sign another forward as well. There have been lots of reports today that they may go in for Victor Gyökeres at Sporting. Now, he's somebody who, of course, has worked with Ruben Amorim. Amorim knows him well. I'm sure there are lines of communication that are open between him and Victor Gyökeres and his representatives. The big question is, would Victor Gyökeres be willing to move to Manchester United when they're not in Europe? He's going to have options of playing for Champions League clubs. He could even stay at Sporting and play in the Champions League as well. But I still think United have got a big, big pull. And what we're seeing this summer from Manchester United is they are not just going to take, what's happened to them lying down. They're coming out fighting. I think they will spend big in the transfer window this summer. Of course, they will have to balance their books because of PSR. But I think we're going to see some real statements of intent from Manchester United because they want to get back and challenge quickly.
Yeah, balance books. Hold on. It wasn't that long ago. We were being told, oof, without Ratcliffe's money, we're going to go bust before Christmas. How can they afford this, Mark?
Well, quite simply because they're
Manchester United.
They're Manchester United. They're one of the biggest clubs in the world. They turn over a huge sum of money, and they will try and trade and recycle cash. And that's what a lot of clubs are doing. How can we raise funds to spend money here, but we need to get some money in? Number of players I could chuck at you, Mike, that will be on the top of the list for Manchester United with regards to exits. Marcus Rashford. We know that the clause for Aston Villa to trigger was £40 million, so they'll be saying he's had a really good, solid second half of the campaign, played Champions League football. We know that there are suitors there. Wages may be a problem.
But that's complex, isn't it? It's not
complex.
Easy to get him out.
But if there is someone that can come to the table at Old Trafford and say, we want Marcus Rashford and we're willing to pay 30, 40 million pounds, that will be offsettable 100% with regards to PSR because he's a homegrown academy product. So therefore, those are the ones that tick boxes. The same with Alejandro Garnacho, the same with Jadon Sancho. We know that there are players there potentially that could raise upwards of £100 million.
Okay.
Obviously, United need someone to knock on the door and say, we want to buy these players, and right now that's where the problem lies.
I'm guessing Anthony is another one who could head out, and there's news that he might go back to a former manager.
Yeah, again, we talk in windows about the domino effect, and this is very much something that could be triggered by Florian Wirtz leaving Bayer Leverkusen, going to Liverpool, and we understand that the replacement for Wirtz at Leverkusen would be this man, Anthony. He cost Manchester United in 2022 £86 million. Huge investment. Safe to say it hasn't quite worked out yet at Old Trafford. But could he potentially link up with someone he knows very well? Erik ten Hag, the new Bayer Leverkusen boss. He's already signed him once for Ajax, signed him twice at Manchester United. Could he sign him a third time at Bayer Leverkusen? Now, this is one to keep an eye on because we know that potentially there could be some big investment there that Manchester United could recoup back. But the important thing to point out with regards to these kind of finances, and that's your initial question, is that it's not always cut and dry. Manchester United paid £86 million for him, but there will be wages, bonuses, agency fees on top of that. And ultimately, the profit they'll make, or the profit they'll have to play with regards to signing new players, is what's called the book price. Now, his book price will be not 86 because he's been there for some time, but it might not be as low as people think. So they may sell him for 50 million, just for argument's sake. Doesn't mean that they've got 50 million to spend. It depends on what his book price is. So, yeah, one to keep an eye on. Definite interest from Bayer Leverkusen.
OK, I want to talk Liverpool now. Luis Diaz, significant update today, Carve. Tell us.
Yeah, Liverpool have rejected an approach from Barcelona for Luis Diaz. Now, it is a bit of a strange situation with Diaz because he's got 2 years left on his contract. And we know that Barcelona have a long-standing interest in him. And also there are clubs in Saudi Arabia who are interested in signing him, like Al Nassr. Now, he's got 2 years left on his contract at Liverpool. I think his expectation is that his representatives are going to have talks with Liverpool about extending that contract. I'm not sure if that is Liverpool's point of view as well. But if he's not going to extend his contract, then you would think that he would need to move on this summer. And there's lots of talk that Liverpool will be making even more big money signings. So is now the right time for him to be leaving? He's been talking because he's on international duty with Colombia. He was talking at a news conference and he basically admitted that, yes, he knows that talks are ongoing and his representatives are talking to other clubs. One of those other clubs, of course, is Barcelona.
So 2 years left on his contract, Mark. Do Liverpool have to avoid the situation that we've just had with Mohamed Salah, Virgil van Dijk and Trent Alexander-Arnold?
Absolutely. You have to remember that those three players that you've mentioned there, the hierarchy at Liverpool were very different to what they are now. It's obviously Richard Hughes is the sporting director, Michael Edwards is involved with FSG, so you've got different personnel at the top of the tree. But any time I have a conversation, and Carve's probably the same about contracts and players, they say the simple rule, you get down to 2 years, you either sign a new deal or we sell you. We don't get down to the final year because that's where the price drops. And of course, when you see someone like Trent Alexander-Arnold leaving for essentially a free, although they got £10 million in the end for him to play in the Club World Cup, that's the nightmare situation. So the noises that Luis Diaz has made with regards to exploring other opportunities and potential options makes sense based on that. But yeah, this is a nightmare situation for any football club. So this will be a big summer for him, either with an extension or Liverpool will say, we're going to recycle that cash and we're going to go use that money to bring someone else in.
Does his situation have any knock-on effect on the Florian Wirtz deal?
No, separate deal. Liverpool had essentially a brilliant summer last year because they spent little to no money, sold players, generated cash, and have a big chunk of that still burning a hole in their pocket. So they've been able to roll that cash forward to this summer, and that's where they can go big. Our information here at Sky Sports News is that Liverpool, and as we've seen already, are looking to really heavily invest in maybe 4 or 5 players over the course of this summer. We know that Frimpong's through the door. We know that they're in talks with Bayer Leverkusen at the moment. Whilst that second offer of £105 million or so hasn't been rejected, the conversation continues. So whatever happens with Luis Diaz, it's not going to affect Wirtz. But any football club, and Carve will tell you the same, the ones that operate in the right way, the ones that are smart, the ones that are astute and clever, they get players in first and then they get players out. Never sign a player unless you're ready to get someone out the door. Otherwise, you get stuck with players that you can't afford and you don't want, and then you end up sending them out on loan at the back end of the window and paying half their wages.
I think the thing about Wirtz as well is, obviously, some Liverpool fans will now be asking the question, what's going on? What's going on? Why is this taking so long?
Yeah.
There are all these reports on social media that it was a done deal and there were pictures of him in a Liverpool shirt. I think from Liverpool's perspective, everyone's just got to calm down. The important thing is the player himself has made it clear he only wants to sign for Liverpool. I know there's been some stories in the Spanish media saying possibly Real Madrid could come in for him and snatch him because Xabi Alonso wants to work with him again and take him to Real Madrid. I don't think anybody at Liverpool is worried about that. I don't think this deal is in jeopardy at all because the player has made it clear, I want to go to Liverpool. And Bayer Leverkusen would much rather sell him to Liverpool than sell him to Bayern Munich. And I think this deal will happen, but let's give Liverpool time to make sure that the numbers are right, because this is a massive deal, a massive deal. The kind of deal that we were told that Manchester City walked away from, because when you add up the size of the transfer fee and also the size of the wages over the length of the term of the contract, you were talking about an investment of around £200 million. And when you're investing that kind of money, you need to take your time and make sure everything is right before you sign on the dotted line.
Oh, you get a chief correspondent for that sort of money. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk Arsenal, left winger, striker. Are they the priority positions for them? And we're talking about big deals. Jack Grealish cost City £100 million. He's not going to the Club World Cup. Is he going out of Manchester City altogether? That and more to come in the Transfer Show. Hello again. Well, we know Manchester City are going to get busy, don't we, with the Club World Cup coming up, and they're close to agreeing a deal with Wolves for Ryan Ait-Nouri. And this is what the Algeria international had to say when asked about his future today.
Non, pour l'instant, je me concentre sur la sélection. Le plus important, là, c'est les 2 matchs. Après, on verra comment ça se passe. On verra comment ça se passe. Ah, franchement, je ne sais pas du tout. On verra. Le plus important, là, c'est les matchs. Les 2 matchs à jouer avec la sélection. Moi, je me concentre sur ça et on verra après. Par la suite. Ouais, tout le monde sait, c'est un très grand coach. Après, comme j'ai dit, ouais, là, le plus important, c'est de se concentrer.
So there he was. Carve, as we said, Club World Cup coming up. Are City going to get this over the line before that tournament starts?
Yeah, I think they definitely will. We were told last night that that was the aim. That is what Manchester City are trying to do. The Khaldoun Al-Mubarak, the chairman, last week in an interview said that they'd made mistakes in past transfer windows by not spending enough, not moving quickly enough. That is what Manchester City are doing. We know that they were going to sign a left-back this window. Ryan Ait-Nouri is a fantastic player, and you would think at 40 million euros, that is a pretty good price. Although, of course, he had 1 year left on his contract at Wolves. Wolves had the option of extending that by another year as well. So that is about 33, 34 million pounds that they'll be paying for him. I think he's likely to have a medical this weekend. Another player, of course, they were linked with and they looked at, another left-back, was Milos Kerkez at Bournemouth. It looks like he is going to go to Liverpool and Ait-Nouri is going to Manchester.
Yeah, 2 really good players, 2 really good left-backs. It's quite interesting, actually, because we spoke earlier in the first part about clubs getting their business done early and targeting the players they want, because one of the reasons why is it almost sets a little bit of a benchmark and a precedent. If he's going for 33 to 34 million, 2 years essentially left on his contract, 23 years old, international player, then what's Milos Kerkez worth? Now, 33, 34 million is probably what, you know, Liverpool would say to Bournemouth. Actually, well, you look at the benchmark, is similar kind of price, whereas obviously Bournemouth will say, well, actually, we want 45 or 50 million pounds. We want to get as much money as possible. We know that Manchester City were interested in Kerkez, but they turned their attention to Ryan Ait-Nouri. Looks like they're getting close to their man. But it's always interesting to see because early transfers always set a little bit of a bar about what players may or may not be worth in that particular window.
Yeah, so City after Ait-Nouri, also after Reinders and Cherki. Where are they with those deals?
Yeah, Man City being bullish in the window. We know they've got the Club World Cup. 2 players you mentioned there. So deal agreed with Milan for Tijani Reinders. We understand the deal is worth £46.3 million with some add-ons as well. So a hefty price. Once again, Man City investing in the player. He's going to sign a 5-year deal at the Etihad. And they've got a really, really talented, clever midfielder. He was voted the best midfielder in Syria, churned in some really decent numbers as well. The key thing for Man City over the course of this summer was they wanted players, losing Kevin De Bruyne, they wanted players that could be that link between Rodri and the front 3, and Reinders very much is that man. Another player that you mentioned there, Rayan Cherki, 21-year-old from Lyon. He's a right winger. He's got just 1 year left on his contract. No talks at this stage, but definite interest from Manchester City.
Which the same probably can't be said for Jack Grealish. Where are we with Jack?
Jack Grealish, I feel sorry for Jack in a way because it feels like he gets targeted. He is honest, open, transparent. You've seen what he's done with various community groups and putting money behind the bar, and he's just an honest lad who loves the game. He's a £100 million footballer. He's paid like a £100 million footballer. He probably hasn't given Manchester City all of the qualities he has. And our understanding is that he's not going to be going to the Club World Cup over the course of this summer. Now, there is a little window where potentially squads can change their players, so there is a chance that he still could.
City are taking 35 players. If he's not in the top 35, he ain't going, is he?
No, but he falls into that bracket that I think a lot of players fall into over the course of this summer, very highly paid. So therefore, the exit options from their club are very limited because there will be, if you said wages not a problem, there'll be probably 19 Premier League clubs that would say, we'll have a look at Jack Grealish. But when it goes down to the wages, there's so few clubs that could actually afford to take him. You look at clubs like Saudi, we know that there's been a consistent interest in players like Jack Grealish, who's still got a lot to offer at 29 years old, still got some good years ahead of him. But you get the feeling that he's played his last games for Manchester City, and this summer could be pivotal for the remainder of his career.
Well, Mark's posed the question, where does someone like Jack Grealish end up?
Well, look, I'm a member of the Jack Grealish fan club, so I want him to stay in the Premier League, and I want him to be playing regularly. Where could he end up? I think it's too early to say. I think he will have his pick of a lot of big clubs, especially later on during this window.
What, to be on loan or to be sold?
I think more likely on loan,
right,
because he's a £100 million player, because he's on big wages, apparently up to £300,000 a week. He's got 2 years left on his contract. So there are not that many clubs who can afford to sign him. But of course, later on during the window, there may be clubs who can do a loan deal to sign him. For instance, the situation we saw with Marcus Rashford going from Manchester United to Aston Villa. There's talk perhaps that he could go back to Aston Villa. I think that would be a remarkable story. I think there will be big clubs, not just in the Premier League. There'll be clubs in Germany, there will be clubs in Italy, there will be clubs in Spain. There will also definitely be clubs in Saudi Arabia lining up to sign him later in the window. And I think he's got a lot to still offer the game. And I think football needs Jack Grealish because, as Mark outlined there, not only is he a fantastic player, he's a maverick, he's a fantastic character as well. I don't know what has happened at Manchester City. Something behind the scenes doesn't feel like it's right. Let's hope that he gets a chance to have a fresh start. But if he doesn't, he's still committed to Manchester City. He's a Manchester City player. He will fight for his place.
Yeah, he will indeed. All right, there's so much to talk about. We're going to talk Arsenal in the 7 o'clock hour. These two, it's half-time for them, so they're going to go and have the oranges, get a dressing down from the producer, raise your game. I'm the half-time entertainment. I'm back with Sports Centre after the break. We'll talk Russell Martin, the new Rangers manager. See you in a moment.